Hi everyone, and welcome again to the Dharmayana, the channel where we contemplate and brainstorm and co-create how to bring together sacred plants and the beautiful Buddhist traditions in order to form really powerful sanghas, spiritual communities, communities of spiritual friends that enable us to transform our suffering into joy and liberation and serve one another and the earth. Today I'd like to talk about the Dharmayana, as we're calling it at present, and the law. It's a very, very important and sensitive subject, and it needs to be discussed as early as possible in the formulation of such communities. Now, this question is going to be a little bit different for each country, of course, where such communities may be established. Because at present, in most of the world, not all of it, but most of it, the use of such sacred plants is against the law. Peru, where I recently spent 3 months and I'm hoping to go back to very shortly for another 3 months to study, is one of the nations where the use of sacred plants is legal, following the indigenous traditions of that land. So today I'll just speak from the perspective of the United States, where I'm currently living. Hopefully some of the principles will be applicable to people in different nations. In the United States, we have the Bill of Rights, part of the Constitution, and this beautiful aspect of the Bill of Rights that we call the First Amendment, which protects our religious liberty. And we see that in very recent years, and these cases and laws can be looked up, the Native American Church has gained a kind of reassertion of its rights to use peyote as a sacred medicine by an act of Congress called the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. And another syncretic church which brings together Christian and indigenous beliefs, called Santo Daime, has had its right to use the sacred plant ayahuasca upheld by a federal court ruling. And another syncretic church called the UDV has had those same rights upheld by the Supreme Court of the United States. And really what we see is that in the Dharmayana we would be doing the exactly same thing, except as opposed to a syncretic church bringing together Christian and indigenous lineages, we would practice bringing together Buddhist and indigenous lineages. So the law should be respected where it is just. And certainly our courts have upheld the natural rights of human beings in our land, here, the United States, to practice spiritually in an authentic manner, in the way that suits them, their conscience, their heart, their spirit. And I would like to kind of also bring forward that the courts, fortunately and happily, reasserted and protected natural rights which no government can take away from people. As human beings, we have the right to worship and come into union and communion with the divine, following our own conscience, following our own hearts, our own reason, all these amazing faculties we've been given. So the rights that the courts have reaffirmed, protected, are our natural rights. And that being said, creating a just society is a very delicate matter, and things should be done in accordance with the law, as I have said, where that law is just. So in the Dharmayana, it is very important to work with the courts, with the government, in order to make sure that everything goes smoothly and easily. It's kind of like some of the principles in the Taoist tradition, where, we can go with the grain of the wood, which in this nation, fortunately, is just at present, and hopefully with our care, protection, deep thought, and discernment, can always remain just, where our natural rights for spiritual practice can be always protected. Actually, this land, with all of its flaws and all of its virtues, historically protected many minority religious groups that were harmed and attacked in Europe. And very sadly, in the process, many indigenous practices were harmed. And now I hope, and I think we all hope, that we're coming to an understanding of how wrong that was, and that will never happen again, and that we can learn from one another across all the beautiful lineages and traditions that we've inherited from our ancestors. So I wanted to very, very quickly and simply establish this at the onset of describing this path through this channel, that certainly in the land where I live and that I consider my home, the United States, while at the same time, of course, the earth is my home. But this is where my roots are at present, and I hope will always be, even if my heart is also given to other beautiful places. That here in this land, the Dharmayana is practiced with an open hand, above ground, within accordance to natural law and the law of our land. And that is all that I wanted to share with you for today. I hope that's helpful in giving clarity for how such sanghas can be created. Of course, one has to carefully work with legal defense funds, people who know the law very deeply and clearly, and can speak eloquently before the courts if needed. So any complications can be hopefully easily clarified and navigated. Hope you receive some benefit from that. For folks that live in nations outside of the United States, these are questions that are to be determined on a case-by-case basis, and it's my hope that as spiritual traditions reintroduce sacred plants into their practices, we as human beings will find good, safe, and ethical ways to weave this back into our laws, where we can all benefit and society can benefit as a whole. That's it for today. Pleasure to be with you as always, and see you soon. Bye-bye.